Today is this is XenForo Insights. It is a collaborative web series between XenForo and Audentio. Today is episode 3. So we're going to be talking about monetization and ad positions. So a lot of people have requested this even before we started the series, people were always asking, how do I monetize? When we asked users to submit their initial questions, like seriously, 75% of them were, how do I monetize? And that's it. No real nothing really additionally. So we are going to talk about that today, the methodology, how to use XenForo, which is super applicable, especially to Kier, and probably all of you who are here today, because I'm assuming you use XenForo, and strategies. And then at the very end, we will cover Q&A. And we have a special guest today, if you haven't already seen her. So we have Kier, as always.
Hi.
We have Mike. And now we have Alex. Alex works with us at Audentio. She is a community strategist. So between the three, I think we will have a really good discussion about monetization, and hopefully you'll come away from the conversation feeling a little bit more prepared.
And we also have Gemma too, right? Gemma,
Yes, of course.
thank you for joining. I think we kind of added you in a little bit later on, but thanks for joining as well.
Yes, and Gemma is with XenForo as well. So here is our first slide discussing methodology of monetization. If anyone wants to jump in talking about user promotions, that's our first topic.
Yeah, so like today, I think we're gonna just cover, more of a roundtable discussion format. I think Kier is nice enough to give us, from his perspective as one of the, the co-founder and one of the main developers at XenForo, maybe give us a brief demo on just getting started with certain features that are built into XenForo. So I don't know exactly in which order we want to do that today, but I mean, just speaking of certain methods and such, paid memberships are one of the most common ways you can monetize any community, and should be obviously of no surprise to anybody here. I think what we'll do is, we're going to kind of roundtable discussion this a little bit here, and I want to, maybe if you guys have any questions in the chat, you're welcome to share that. But maybe what we do is, we show exactly how XenForo can be used to accomplish setting up just a basic membership, a basic some paywalling, some user groups, and things like that. Kier, do you want to do that demo now, or is there something we want to talk about first?
Sure. I must confess, I'm struggling a little to find out where on earth the text window for Zoom has gone, but I'm sure I'll find that out in a minute. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is user promotions. And user promotions is a system that lets you take any user and apply a system of criteria to it in order to either give them a permission or otherwise elevate them to another level of whatever. So let me see if I can work out how to share my screen here. And okay, so in this window, I've got my administrative user logged in, looking at the list of recent content. And then in this window, I've got Mr. User, who is just a newly registered standard user. And I've set up 2 forums from my base install. I've got the main forum and what I've called the restricted forum, just for clarity. And I've used the RSS feed importer to just pull in a bunch of content from XenForo.com. And what I want to show you here is how to turn this forum into something that is initially restricted by permissions, and then eventually we can turn it into paywalled. So what we're going to do is we'll come into the control panel as the administrator here, and I'm going to go and find that user, that forum in my node list. And here it is. And I'm going to click on permissions, and I'm going to use something that is very underrated, but very, very powerful, which is this private node option. And I'll hit save on that. And with that couple of clicks, that forum is now private. So any default user groups that would normally have permission for that have had the reset flag set for their permissions for that particular forum, and now it does not appear. So it hasn't gone. If I load it up with the administrative user, then it has gone. but that's because right now the administrative group doesn't have access to that, but we'll show you how to set that up next. So if I want to allow this user to gain access, then they need to belong to another user group. And I'm going to do that over here with groups and permissions. These are the standard groups. They're all pretty self-explanatory, but users who have just recently registered and haven't had any other changes will belong to this registered group. And we know for a fact that the registered user group has had their viewing permissions for that restricted forum revoked as a result of that toggling of the private forum, private node, I think we call it. But what I want to do now is create a new user group, and we'll call this access to paid stuff, or let's even call it has access to paid stuff. And I'm going to leave it completely alone. It's going to have no additional permissions whatsoever. Save that out, and it's just building the permission cache. And now I'm going to go and say in my node permissions that I want to edit has access to paid stuff. They do have access. And for the moment, I'm just going to leave that as yes on view. Now, that hasn't changed anything. Nothing here has changed. But if I go and just take that user, let's list them all, Mr. User, and I'm going to add him to access to paid stuff. Then as soon as that saves, then they have access to that again. Now, that's all very straightforward, but what about if we want to give them paid access to that? Mike, do you want to take over for a moment and talk about what the kind of stuff that would actually involve, and then I'll demo how to actually do it.
Yeah, sure. So, and a couple of things. I know we kind of covered this on the first episode, but I mean, it's such a simple and yet powerful feature that that XenForo kind of offers just out of the box there. The ability to kind of restrict content, and not only just content, but I mean, the part here kind of skipped over was a rather large list of different permissions. You can do things like only let premium members create a thread, right? You can make it so only paid members can react in that particular node. You can make it so they can, do I guess a wealth of different minor, small features that kind of, you can compile those together and then put those on on like a subscription page, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later. But and you don't have to go crazy with it. I think users in general, when you talk about, setting up your permission structures, setting up what features are paywalled and what aren't, I really wouldn't overthink it. A couple very critical features go a very long way. Like even restricting access to the private messaging system is a common tactic that I see. Private messages can be abused, and hey, if you're paying some type of money for it, then it's a luxury that you gain access to, and it will curb abuse. So you can oftentimes help yourself out by paywalling certain features, or like over formatting posts or things like that. So
I also wanted to add that anything you paywall or add into a membership should only serve to enhance the user's experience. So anything basic on the forum should be free. But you can do simple things through a membership, like limiting ads, adding a special post bit, giving the user an achievement, or a special user title. And these can be just like simple things that add value to the user while not costing a lot to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even just setting like Alex said, a user banner. XenForo has this user banner system, which I think maybe even here, if you want to show that when you get a sec,
Sure.
just the standard user group feature in user groups. If we pull up just any user group here, let's pull up that has access, or any of the.
That's we actually need user group permissions, not node permissions. So here is the registered group, and
actually go to user groups so we can
Okay.
show the user banner. Just the And just click on has access to paid stuff.
Mhm.
I guess it doesn't really matter much. There you go. Yeah, so like right here, you've got user banner text, user banner styling. I know many successful communities who just simply do a couple of restricted areas and a user banner, and that's it. But if you scroll down here, there's all kinds of other things that you can do with separate permissions. Things like even ability to upload an avatar, right? Ability to use a profile banner. These are some special features that, really they aren't needed on the community. In fact, profile banners, they can just eat up your disk space, right? So if you're being kind of clever a little bit here, you might be saving yourself some infrastructure costs by actually limiting some of these features. And certain users who have shown their value on the community, they will be able to benefit in new and extra ways and feel valued.
You also want to keep a balance between giving people features, but also not creating an elitist environment. So you should be giving users features that add to that experience, but you don't want to give them too many features to where they feel like they have an elite status over other members. You need to keep a balance between the two.
So yeah, and I think we could talk at length. I almost wonder if we need to, I want to circle back to even just all kinds of stuff you can do with premium members. And I'd love to start seeing some questions if you guys have any. I guess now, Kier, if you want to take it back and show, I think we're going to cover setting up the upgrade, the user upgrade,
sure.
right?
Okay. So user upgrades, which belong under the user section, and here they are. Now, this is, you'll notice that I've got this notice here because this is just a demonstration setup. So there's a big banner saying that nothing's actually going to happen when I do anything. But a user upgrade is an item that you can buy, which will usually elevate your permissions by adding you to one or more additional user groups. So before we come back to that, we need to have the ability to actually buy something. And the way we do that is we use a payment provider. So over here under setup, we have payment profiles. Now I've got one set up, but I'm not going to show you the details in that. So I'll just show you roughly what you would get. So I'm going to add,
And real quick, and you can do that. And just regarding payment profiles, I hear a lot like, which one do you go with? And there are a lot of options. So first of all, the most standard are PayPal and Stripe. There's authorize.net to checkout, etc. Technically speaking, even your local bank might even have an API that you can integrate with, right? Local banks typically offer like, a 1% or whatever, but their API is typically not as good, right? So you need, like for example, PayPal, depending on which version of PayPal IPN or which API you're using, doesn't allow end users to cancel their subscription, which is an extremely annoying thing to have, whereas, well, Stripe does. So there are some subtle differences in how those APIs function. But I think one of the main things that you probably want to consider is just, well, what the fee is. And PayPal and Stripe are pretty much in lockstep with each other. It's 3.5% plus 30 cents if you don't have the card, and then it's 2.9% if you can prove that you have the card, which typically means CVC and Zip now. They changed that a little bit from time to time, I think. And I could be wrong on that, so I might need to fact check myself later. But you can add other payment providers here as well if you happen to have one. But again, if you're not sure, or if you're a little bit uncomfortable, going to PayPal, setting up a quick account, or going to Stripe rather, setting up a quick account, probably I'm starting to advocate more for Stripe, especially since PayPal now charges for
everything.
For fee. Well, they keep the fees now on refunds, which is a rather annoying decision. I don't quite understand it, but in any case,
started to charge for withdrawals as well just recently, which is.
Oh really? Oh geez.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to advocate for Stripe at this point. I'm a little fed up with PayPal. The customer service is gone off a cliff, and Stripe just seems to be going from strength to strength. The other enormous benefit of Stripe, as far as I'm concerned, is that when you are presented with a Stripe payment page, it's not branded Stripe everywhere. It just looks like quite a nice payment system, whereas anything that goes through PayPal is indelibly PayPal. And sometimes that can look a little amateurish if you don't offer additional payment systems. So I'm going to use Stripe as my demo for today. And I'll show you roughly how this works. So like I said, I've got a live one set up here, but I'll just go through the steps to show you how I got that set up. So I'm going to ask for Stripe. Oh, I should just mention that the XenForo add-on system allows you to add additional payment providers. So any third party that decides to publish their own, or you could even write your own if you have the skills to do it. This list is not exhaustive. That's just what comes out of the box. So let's add a Stripe processor. The title is primarily for your own use, and the display title is something that is going to be shown to your end users. So you might want to just call this card payments, which is what I've done on my other one. Now, you've then got these 4 boxes for API keys. And where do you get those from? Well, once you've signed up for a Stripe account, under the developers section here, and then under API keys, you'll find both your test keys and your live keys. I'm not going to show you mine at this point, but that's where they come from. And you just copy those out and paste them into these boxes according to which one is appropriate at the time. And then I'm going to talk briefly about this last box, this enable payment request API support. This is a really great feature to have because it kind of opens up the whole plethora of payment support that Stripe offers. So for example, if you are on a Mac that has Touch ID, then enabling that will instantly give you access to Apple Pay. So your checkout process will look like this with an Apple Pay button. And then as soon as you actually click on that, then you get something that looks kind of like that. This Mac doesn't have Touch ID, so I can't show you that live, but that's roughly what you'd be getting. So once you've add all those things in and you hit go, then you're ready to run. So our payment provider is set up, and then we're going to go into our user upgrades, and we'll set up something that's going to allow you to pay for access to a user group. So we'll add a user upgrade, and we're going to call it access to paid content. I suggest you use something a lot better than that. And let's call it $489. We'll give it a length. So this is quite a nice feature. You can actually set up something that is only going to upgrade a user for a limited time, and then it will automatically downgrade them again. And you use that in conjunction with recurring payments. So let's set up a 1-month subscription using the payment provider that we've just set up. And what's it actually going to do? It's going to give us access to this has access to paid stuff user group. And we could also chain user upgrades together. So we've got this other upgrade called Become a Better Person that I could disable in the event that someone has access to that. But we'll make sure that that is set up as can be purchased. Off we go, access to paid content at $4.89 a month. And now if we come over to Mr. User here, who is still languishing in the zone of having no access to the restricted forum, then we can go into here and you can see that there's now this account upgrades option under his user menu. And he has a list of the various different upgrades that he could buy. So I'm going to ask to purchase access to paid content. And here we go. Now, that's not actually going to work at the moment because this computer doesn't have incoming access to the internet. But what we will do is I'm going to come over here and manually upgrade him. So I'm not doing that. Let's have some actions. Manually upgrade a user. I'm going to upgrade Mr. User. And he's going to have access to paid content. And he's going to have that expire on that day. Let's hit upgrade. So that's essentially what would happen if this had been completed. And if we refresh this now and go back to the forum list, he has access to the restricted forum. He has paid for access. Mike, take it away.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's such a beautiful little system there that really has a lot of there's a lot of things you can do with it. And I know probably a lot of people watching this right now have played around with this system before. It's really not that complex. There's about 3 or 4 different key data structures within XenForo, and that should get you kind of the majority of the way there with setting up your membership model. Couple of things to note, I guess, is, if you are new to setting up membership models, just like anything else, keep it simple, right? If you try to overly set things up, set too many membership upgrade options up or anything like that, too many very minor features that you're editing, the end user just kind of feels a little bit confused, and they don't quite know where their value is coming from. Yeah, so we talked about user upgrades, and we even talked a little bit about that user criteria already. But I think another thing that many people have tried is ads, and a couple of things on this is more my opinion on ads, but ads haven't really been as cool as they used to be. I guess maybe they never were, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with ads. I just try to tell people, try not to base your entire community around the idea of selling ads, and ads can have a negative effect on your community as a whole. Again, not saying don't do that. There are plenty of successful communities out there who primarily monetize through ad networks. A couple strategies just to note. So the easiest thing, again, if you're new, is to just go to Google AdSense, apply to have an account, and they kind of walk you through, essentially giving you some code that you plop in. And maybe we could even demo how to do that in XenForo too at some point, but there is a system in XenForo for editing advertisements in a quick and simple way. But I think, a couple of more advanced strategies when it comes to ads. You can set it up, and I think XenForo has a stock permission for viewing ads. Is there a view ads permission? You can very easily restrict ads by, XenForo has conditional statements and all kinds of fun stuff that you can do to limit access to particular user groups.
Right.
So let's say that somebody, if somebody is in a paid access user group, you can essentially wrap the ads in some code that limit who sees them, and so you can even have some ads available to everybody, and other ads, maybe the ones that go in between threads or in the sidebar or wherever else, you can make sure that those are completely hidden to the top paying members, for example. And also you can do and I guess since we can talk about ads all day, there's a lot of different people have different strategies on there. There's companies devoted, there's ad companies, right? So I think if you guys have any questions like that, I want you to also think of the XenForo community as a place where we can all be talking about that and asking questions, which I know many people are already.
I just wanted to talk about affiliate links because those are ads that we use fairly often, and they're helpful because they're more targeted to the community, so you can find affiliate programs. So for example, you have a hunting forum. You can go find affiliates that have ads that are relevant to your community, and those are more likely to bring in revenue because they are related to the topic of your community. And skim links are also a great way to earn money passively because you can just add a bit of code into your site and it'll automatically create links based on products that you and your community members mention. So those are two easy strategies for ads.
Yeah, I mean, I think historically skim links used to be pretty good. I mean, lately, I think as a guest only feature, we've seen some success there, right? So they kind of annoy members, right? And sometimes it's best to avoid. But I've seen there's some communities I know who they literally just put up a notice that say, hey, as soon as you're gonna buy something, click this link. It's to Amazon. And the percentage has been changing over time. But when you have a community, you kind of have this really interesting perspective that you are almost like a household, or you're some type of entity, some type of and if you ask your members for help, surprisingly, they would be happy to help because they spend their time with you, right? And so asking for certain things like click this link, or to take a look at one of our at a sponsor or something like that, they're far more willing to do that than I guess a blank, unsolicited ad on Instagram or Facebook, or at least not necessarily more likely, but they're more inclined to. Let's put it that way. I think they're more willing to contribute and do their part by helping the site stay healthy.
And I think that segues really well into donation models, because the way that we've been doing donation models is we will help cover server and hosting costs. So we will find the server and hosting costs of a client, and we will set that as the target for a donation model, and we'll create a campaign. And this has seen extreme success just because people are so willing to support the community, even if they maybe can't get a membership at the time. So having that option for one-time payments is very helpful.
Yeah, and I think, and I could be wrong, I know PayPal API supports, there's a checkbox maybe on payment profiles where you can select that it's a donation type user upgrade. So you can use the user upgrade system. There are various add-ons out there that do donations. I mean, even just doing a stock donate button from Stripe or PayPal and put it in the sidebar is totally fine. But the benefit, I guess, of making it a user upgrade or using some type of add-on is you can incentivize people to donate. You can incentivize people to buy a subscription model. And how you incentivize that, I think we'll cover maybe in another episode. But like, for example, group you set up called donors, and anybody who's made a donation in the past, they get access to that donor group. And maybe all it is a little badge on their profile. Maybe it doesn't gain them any special access or anything like that. It's just a small bit of recognition to let the rest of the community know that they're a contributing member to the site. And one final thing, just because it's on the slide, is the classifieds, media gallery systems, and these like systems. There's XenForo has the ability to add these very significant systems. The resource manager. There's some beautiful large systems within XenForo ticket systems and all kinds of stuff. And again, using the user upgrades system, you can limit access to those large systems. One of the most common ways that I see communities monetize themselves is through their classified system, right? It almost doesn't matter what niche you're in, have a classified system. And obviously, if you don't have much traffic, maybe don't monetize it. But if you are getting, some people get half their traffic to their classified system for their entire community, especially if you're in a very specific niche, like, I don't know, playing the xylophone, I don't know. There's a very niche communities. That's what makes forums such a beautiful space, is because you'll find people, who are very similar to you. And chances are you guys will all need to buy and sell certain products that are similar. And why not buy it from somebody who's a fellow, in this case, musician, or somebody who actually knows the product? You can write a detailed review. You kind of have this underlying concept of trust, maybe more so than an eBay or a Facebook marketplace or something like that, where you never really know who's who. There's this underlying concept of trust that I think when you have a very niche community, you kind of benefit from that, assuming you've helped, as a community manager, you've helped to build that. So always worth considering some of these larger systems and being able to monetize those.
Side note, feedback systems for classifieds are also a great way to go through and kind of filter who is a good member in classifieds and who maybe doesn't have trustworthy sales. So if that's something you were worried about when creating a classified system, there are systems that can control that.
Yeah, and one final note is, like, some of these things I've talked about require, there's some add-ons out there in the market, but you can make a classified system using thread prefixes, which is a stock XenForo feature. Set up a prefix for buy, sell, trade, set up some basic user group limitation settings, and go from there. But you can check out the resource manager as well. There's some great add-ons by some great people in there. I'll pass it back to Megan. Sorry, we talked a lot about that, but
I think our next category is using XenForo, so that's probably super applicable. Yeah. There aren't any bullets on this one, but user upgrades and payment profiles.
Yeah.
You touched on this.
Yeah, we touched on that already.
Okay.
I think just and there's and we also briefly touched on this, but like when Kier was showing how to do a payment profile, I think it's also worth noting that you can even use a completely separate membership software. If you're on WordPress right now and you have all your members set up, or maybe you're on vBulletin or something and you already have some of those payment profiles set up, I'm sure you'll have questions, and definitely consider posting that up in the community forum. But there are plenty of people out there who are using separate membership software, and then you can use the XenForo API to integrate. Now, it does require some developer time, but if you already are using a separate membership system and you just want to add a community, add a forum, you don't have to necessarily switch to the user upgrade system. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Well,
we do actually have a little question come through as well from XDink, which is, are you planning to add an option to reset permissions for a user group, or adding a default option to easily copy user groups with the permissions?
Here, yeah, you take that one.
I'm not entirely clear on what the question is. I mean, because we have the concept of permission resets as a node level, and we also have the concept of a never permission within individual user groups. So I might need a bit more detail on the question before I can answer that with any kind of authority.
so whoever asked that, if you could add any more details in chat, and we'll get back to that question. Is it okay in the meantime if I move on? Now I can see the questions and I don't see any more. Could I move on to gamification and events, or do you want?
Well, just before we do, Megan, I was just going to do a little demo on the ad system, just to show how you can not only bring in ads, but also tie them into user upgrades and permissions. So I may just hit share on my screen again for a moment and see how we can do that. So while we've been on air, I've just been setting up these two little ads here. They're obviously not proper ads, but they are ad placeholders. I've got one here, which I've called my above sidebar ad, and one here called my below sidebar ad. The XenForo advertising system is really quite powerful in its simplicity, actually. And the way it works is you just say that you want to add an advertisement, you give it a title, and then you pick from one of the permissions that's predefined so that it will always insert it in the appropriate place on the correct page depending on what you're doing. So I've just used the container sidebar above and below positions for these two. But you could specify something like the forum view, and that's only going to show up on applicable pages. So whenever you're seeing the overview of a forum, you'd see that, otherwise it won't appear. But all you need to do then is paste in your snippet from Google AdSense or wherever else your advertising HTML comes from, and you can intermingle that with XenForo template syntax. So if there is additional logic that you want to apply to those templates to maybe inject the username of the currently visiting user into the advert, you can do that by setting it up with template syntax, and you've got access to a vast array of data through that. And then finally, once you've got your snippet set up and ready to display, you can then choose who to display that advert to. So I'm going to go over to this container sidebar above, and right now, looking at Mr. User here, we know that this is a regular registered user who also belongs to that access to paid stuff account user group. So let's say that just as a perk of having access to paid stuff, you get to remove maybe this ad. It's as simple as saying user is not a member of, has access to paid stuff. I'll hit save on that. And now everyone who isn't a member of paid stuff will get that ad, but this particular user, because he's had access to paid stuff, doesn't now get it. It's gone. Let's go back to the page I was on for a second so you can see that this one's still here, but his paid access has removed that potentially intrusive advert at the top there. I think that's the end of that demo at this point. Except to say that there are a handful of templates that you can specify to prevent adverts from ever appearing. So, for example, you may not want to have your advertisers in particular may not want to have their content shown on a page that says you're a bad user, you can't do something. They may only want to have it on rich content pages. So by setting up these templates as never display templates, you can have adverts never appear on error pages, for example. That's it for me for this one.
Okay, so the person who asked the initial question did not clarify that I can see yet, but then there's another question, and it is back to the classified. So I've never heard before about classified system in XF. Where is it? And Kier, would you know that one?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm allowed to shout people out, but there is there are, I think, 2 or 3 classified systems in the resource manager. I think just take a look at those. I think there's even a thread where there's some people talking about them. We use one. I'm not sure if I should say which one, but we've been very happy with it. By a reputable developer at XenForo in the community.
Is it all right with everybody if we move on to gamification and events? Because I know that can be a really big one depending on the community. A lot of these monetization methods, I feel like you're going to have to, as the listener, you're going to have to determine what's best for your community. But this one, I mean, I love gamification and events. It's a really fun one. Should we talk about it?
We should, yeah.
I'll share my screen again.
So yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. So XenForo has there's already a trophy system, but they have a trophy point system, and again, based on perhaps even using certain user criteria, which probably is worth a demo, you can incentivize users to, well, perform positive behaviors like the slide says. And what that really means is, let's just say, you want people to subscribe to your Patreon, or you want them to donate, like I mentioned earlier, or you want them to purchase a care package or buy something from your Shopify, right? Because XenForo can integrate with Shopify with a little bit of API hooking up. But you can kind of give people different levels of access, or you can give people, like I said, user groups, or even using some of the trophy system features, you can, and third-party add-ons. There's a lot of good badging add-ons out there that will allow you to give users a bit of credit for helping to monetize the community, to helping to pay for it, helping to support in any way that they can. So I think people often think of monetization as somewhat of like a burden when they ask their members. I don't think you have to think that way at all. I think you can make it something where you can create, I guess, an aura around it, or you can create content around it that promotes a feeling that it is helpful, and that it is something that you can do only if you have the means to, and that if you do, you can earn a prize. You can make it somewhat fun. There are plenty of people who will want to earn all your badges, all your trophies that you set up. And if you set up a trophy to help support, then they're more inclined to do so. So, and gamification is such a wide variety of, there's such a wide variety of topics we can cover, both using XenForo and just in general, which I think we're going to do an episode in the future just on gamification, I think. But, to talk about even events, and I think it's somewhat of a new type of thing that we've been trying to play around with, but I think community managers as a whole are always looking for, like, what's something new we can do? Okay, we've set up our user groups, we've set up premium forums. We have certain large features like media galleries paywalled, or we've got a donation model widget set up so people who have the means to, can choose to donate. We've done all that, and we've got ads. What else can we do? I think events are one of the smartest things you can do that are so underappreciated. I mean, what better way? And again, not everything is a software solution. Not everything is a feature. XenForo is your foundational community software. It handles all the heavy lifting. It's something you absolutely need to have. But one of the best ways is to just show your community members that you are involved and that you care. And that's by doing things like, if you're in the gaming space, do a stream. If you are in a educational space, maybe you do some type of webinar series, kind of like what we're doing now, really, right? Where, the community can kind of see your face and get to interact with you in some type of way. And yeah, you can monetize that. You can make that, you can sell tickets. You can use the user upgrade system for that. You can do user promotions for that. And I think there's all types of events. And here's the other thing: you can monetize events indirectly too. For example, if you run the event, whatever it is, a stream, a webinar, in a local meetup, there's plenty of communities out there. I think like Ruud was mentioning his motorcycle meetup he did in the Netherlands. Forgive me, I actually don't remember. But there are ways you can monetize that event, and then once you've done the event, take a video of it, post it online, put some ads on it. You upload it to YouTube, wherever else, depending on how many events you want to promote. And you could do that just around community events, just your own people, your moderators, yourself, thought leaders in your community coming together to make some content for you. So you can sell it directly by selling tickets or whatever user group upgrades that you'd like, and then indirectly by monetizing it, monetizing access to it later. And obviously,
can I also step in?
Please.
You can also get a sponsor for your contest or event. So that can be good just because it will drive traffic to that sponsor, and it will also be beneficial to you because you are getting a brand that relates to your community. So it's very mutually beneficial. And I also just wanted to add an anecdote just about contests that we've run in the past, just to give you guys a clearer example. So say that I am managing a guitar forum. You want to make the contest feel exclusive for the members, but you don't want to exclude anyone. So the way that you do that is you can make the contest open to all members, but when the paid users will submit their, say that they're making a guitar video based on some lessons that you have, they will get extra points, so they're more likely to win. But the contest is actually open to all members. So this is, again, incentivizing the positive behavior, not creating a toxic atmosphere. So it's always just the balance between monetizing your community, but still creating a positive environment.
Yeah, and it's a positive feedback loop, really, because you get members engaging and having something to do. You're monetizing. You're using plenty of stock XenForo features to accomplish that, so your engineering overhead is possibly zero. And you're creating, like Alex was saying, instead of a toxic environment, a positive environment where people they have something to do. So it helps user engagement and monetization. And honestly, as a community manager, all you have to do is maybe create a thread and use the announcement system, the communication system within XenForo to notify those members that you have that event going on. Putting a notice at the top that says that the event is going on. These little details will make sure that, well, it gets the exposure, and it's not just one event you can do. You kind of have to make a pattern out of it. But as a community manager, you'd find that maybe your real workload is not as high as it might seem. Members don't need anything fancy. As Alex was mentioning, you can do a video contest, and if you have 50 members submit, you just made 50 pieces of content. And honestly, if you don't want your members to do that, you can do meme contests. You can do, I guess if you're so inclined, funny political jokes or whatever. I don't know. But whatever, people love doing stuff like that. They love just interacting with each other. and having fun. And again, you get to monetize that, and you don't have to hide that either. They're going to be happy to contribute.
I also did want to talk about potential prizes for contests. You can, again, drive these back to the site. They don't always have to be like these big, grandiose prizes. They can be something as simple as a user upgrade, which can then get that person into the user upgrade for like a free month or 3 months. And that could potentially get them into a reoccurring payment eventually. And if they like that enough, then they could maybe talk to other users. And I mean, it's just a simple way to get users into the features of the upgrade.
Cool. And I think we could probably talk about all the different, like, I'm mostly excited about the gamification contests and events, stuff like that. It's the funnest, I think, or at least if it's applicable to your community, it can be really fun. And the users, like, I'm a user, I love it. So it's a really good one to get your users involved and not just be asking for money straight out. But we are probably going to be doing a whole episode on that at some point. Until then, we have about 10 minutes left unless we want to go over, which is fine, but
I'll
testing-
skim this one because
Okay.
again, yeah, I know we don't have much time. I mean, I don't think we even got to cover half the strategies that we wanted to. I think, if anyone has questions, just, post it up on the community. I'll be lurking around as I normally do. But to talk about A/B testing and user segmentation, and that's why I think on my profile at on certain admin sites and webmaster sites, when we talk about XenForo, what's my favorite feature? It's user criteria and user promotions. And it's such an unbelievably powerful tool that XenForo offers. And I don't think I can think of any fancy membership software out there or anything that does that. I should have prepared a demo, forgive me, but Kier, not to put you on the spot, while I'm talking, would you mind pulling up the user criteria / user promotion system? Very sorry, and if you are on the spot, apologies, but and I'll assume maybe you can't, but I'll just talk briefly about it.
I am on my way, so
thank you.
I'll demo, you talk.
Okay, so what you can do with this is, so obviously new members, you probably don't want to push maybe even ads to them right away, right? You don't really want them to feel like this is a community ridden with ads. So here's a little tip: don't show them ads. Put them in a user group where, call it new members or whatever, right? Sorry to put you on the spot again, Kier. But you can then apply the promotion. And again, just to back up, a user group promotion essentially moves a user into a user group while certain criteria are met. So, for example, new members, we don't want them to see a bunch of ads for subscribing or a bunch of ads. We can go down to registration time somewhere here. Sorry. Or wait, or even just or actually even just like how many posts that they've made recently, or and again, there are some add-ons out there that give you a lot of other messages. But here, if you want them to, until they've made, let's say, 100 messages, or even just like 5, right? Until they've made, or even using trophy points, because trophy points is XenForo's like native gamification system. It's kind of like
the
you get
registration
points.
bit.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Let's get rid of that.
So whichever one you
for at
sure.
least. Oh, that's that one. Has been registered for at least. Do we actually not have a has not been registered for at least something? Maybe we don't.
User has been registered for at least X days. I think that's what you want, right? So if you've been registered for a week, right? I think you'd put, would you put 7? So while these new members are acclimating to the community, how about we don't push monetization strategies at them too hard, right? So then what you can do is you can make sure that under the advertisement system, and I checked if there was a global show ads setting. I swear I've seen one. Forgive me if we'll mention it maybe in the comments section somewhere, but you can, if nothing else, just go to advertisements and uncheck all the ads to show on that new member user group. And so now those new users won't see any of that. And that's one basic example of user segmentation. That's really what user segmentation is. You take all your members and you chop them up to into a couple buckets, and you get to kind of make a couple like informed decisions about what you want to do with those members. Should you try to monetize them? Should you overly monetize them? Like the people who spend all their time there. You know, a lot of people think that you should not have ads for those people. Well, you know what? They might be your highest value ad clicks, depending on your niche. Like if you're in sporting or outdoors or anything like that, some of those members actually want to see ads, if you believe it. It just depends on your niche. So what you want to do is maybe you'll learn your audience, of course, and you can use this user upgrade and criteria system to really get a very detailed and thoughtful segmentation of your users and optimize how you approach monetization with them. So that way you're not scaring new members off or maybe even hurting yourself by hiding ads to some of your most premium, most active users who have the most page impressions and are most interested in those ads, just as an example.
User segmentation can also be really helpful in the case of surveying your users, just because you can target them based on different activity levels and just have the same survey, but the answers can be so skewed based on different activity levels and engagement in the community. So this could help you in a monetization sense, because you can determine how different levels of use may be affecting like payments. So some groups that are more active may be more open to getting a user engagement, whereas some newer, less engaged members may be less interested in getting that. So having that information can be extremely helpful.
I was just going to say that if anyone's been watching what I've been randomly clicking around with, I've just taken this new members promotion and set up the criteria for when it should be applied. And then when the criteria apply, then people who are getting that promotion get added to this newly registered user group that I just created, which has no permissions on its own. It is simply a container. It doesn't do anything by itself. But then I've gone into the advertising system and gone through each of my ads and said, don't show it if you're a member of the newly registered user group.
It's beautiful, and I really encourage you guys to explore. I mean, we're scratching the surface and trying to cram as much as we can for an hour, so I know it's not like the most detailed at times, but I mean, just play around with it. The admin panel is beautiful. It's well laid out, and there's so many different settings. And again, check out user criteria and user promotions. It's very powerful. And you can do A/B testing. I won't talk about it today, but I think we probably want to get into maybe questions. And is there anything else on the slide that we missed? Maybe I think we cut off a good amount of what we wanted to cover today, but you know, I guess we'll maybe do a monetization too someday.
Yes. Right now there is a things to avoid slide that we missed, but you both, well, you all kind of touched on almost all of it. But I do have a cue or a question from Andy. Is now a good time?
Yeah, please, let's do it.
So he says, I use the user upgrade system for forum sponsors. It's a bit clunky to do this, as I create a bespoke upgrade for each sponsor, then set up a sponsored forum, etc. It's very manual. I lock down the upgrades page so all the upgrades don't display. Upgrading users to help generate revenue is a great way to go. Is there a better way to set up sponsors, or is there the potential for a better sponsor manager to deal with these scenarios?
And just to be clear, I don't know if you're able to answer, but are your sponsors like engaged in your community or not? Because, well, if they're not, then I would assume that maybe that methodology is maybe what's needed. You'll have to do it manually, right? But if they're engaged in the community in some capacity, you probably could automate that with XenForo. I might need more context. So
Andy has actually put that they're engaged in the community.
Yeah, so I mean, if they are engaged and you're using the user upgrade, system, is that right? So that'll handle the payment part, but it sounds to me like well, what might you need to grab from them? You might need some information, right? Like a logo and name of the sponsorship, or is it just their username? And sorry to put you on the spot here, but
Yeah, well, Andy, if you have any more information, then do let us know.
yeah, well, it's a good question for sure, but it's one of those things where, you know, I think yeah, so they would have banner, paid for forum nodes, etc. So okay, so wait, your sponsorship is essentially is a subscription, right? It's same terminology here, right? So or different, but same purpose. So I might not be able to yes, but a business. Okay, so yeah, if they're businesses and they're engaged, I mean, I don't really see any. You could build an add-on, I would say, if you wanted to show their logo on, like, let's say a forum node, right? I assume your context is something like, you know, you have a business and you want them to sponsor some type of node. Yeah, there are add-ons that do that. I can think of at least one, but I think if you can't find that add-on, and I'll maybe message me after, and I can send you a link to one. But yeah, doing it manually is really probably just a fine option. You can manage, or you can edit the forum view template or the thread view template or whatever else, and just manually add that link in. You can create new templates too, so your code stays clean and the theme and everything gets upgraded. But that's something maybe we take offline. If you'd like to message me, I can see if I can help.
So I am getting more questions submitted, but I'm not sure how lengthy they're going to be. Do you guys want me to keep going, or should we save them for another day? We just
I'm
had
happy to
2 more
stick around.
submitted.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So we have, how can you use the user payments/promotions so you can stop placing ads at all on your forum? More and more ads are blocked. So I was seeing that problem actually yesterday. I was using an ad blocker because I just do by default. And a forum said to me, we notice you're using ad blocker and that's the source of our income. Can you please stop? So I don't know if that's relevant. And then to follow up with that, the same user asks, how can you attract enough of your users to get a serious cash flow? Should I repeat the first bit again?
Yeah, please. So
Okay.
yeah, are we answering Rude's question? So how can you
Yes.
attract enough of your users to get a serious cash flow? So if you have a large user following, every without ads, okay, yeah, every community's gonna be different, and that's what's so beautiful about the space, right? Different people, different needs, different wants, and whatever else. So as a community manager, you and probably only you understand what is best for your audience, right? Just by, well, working and speaking with them for however long you have. If you have a large user audience and you've never monetized before, one of my best pieces of advice is, as Alex mentioned earlier, to do a survey. Because if you just release some type of monetization strategy and all of a sudden there's user upgrades or whatever else, your really core users, your community leaders, they might be confused. They might not say so, but they'll be like, well, it was never made clear to me why I need to sponsor, or what's changed. Has leadership changed? Are we now going to be overly monetized and treated like cattle? I don't know what people will say. So if you do a survey and an announcement that says, hey, we're interested in gathering support, we need some help to keep things going, you can come from that perspective. People typically will understand that servers cost money and software costs money, and your time is valuable, especially if you spend a lot of it. So I would just say, do a thread, do a survey that gets an idea of how much people are willing to contribute and how frequently. Is it a monthly, a quarterly? Is it one time when they can? Find out things that they would find valuable. Maybe there's certain things that they think the community should have that it doesn't. Members have great insight. They're the ones with the problem that, depending on your niche, if they have a problem, they're coming to you for that problem. If it doesn't, and when I say problem, I don't mean it in a negative sense. I just mean, they're coming to you for some particular reason. It could even just be social, right? Whatever they're coming to you for, whatever they're coming to your community for. So just ask them, and I think that's the best strategy to go about starting a membership model or any monetization strategy.
Right. We also have another question from Marco, if we have time. Marco says, would it be possible to set up a thread within a paid access forum for integrating a live event like yours today, for example, so only paying customers can see that?
I'll take that one. So out of the box, you only have the ability to lock down, as far as forums and threads and messages go, you only have the ability to lock down at the forum level, and you could apply that restriction anywhere within the tree. So if you apply it to the top level of the tree, then the restrictions will cascade down unless they're overridden. So the simple answer is no, you can't add paid access to a single thread. However, I was just thinking about how difficult it would be to actually extend XenForo to do that. And in actual fact, it's really not very difficult at all. If you went into the add-on system and you run the commands to create an add-on, you would need to extend the thread controller and then extend the action thread, or whatever it's called. I think it's the action view, perhaps, for your extended controller. And then you simply put in a piece of logic that says, if the thread ID is equal to the particular ID of a thread that you've created that is specific to a particular event, and the current user does not belong to a particular user group, then you could either throw a no permission error, or you could spit out an alternative template that maybe has a link to buy your paid upgrade or whatever else. So although no, it's not something that you can do straight out of the box, it is something that would be quite straightforward with a couple of minutes of coding time.
And there are some middle ground strategies you can employ, like the resource manager. We use the resource manager and repurpose it oftentimes to do things like lessons or classes or different other data structures that you can sell one-off access to, because the resource manager comes with a thread as well. So sometimes you want to keep the thread open because that's where people can ask questions. And then the thing itself, the event itself, or whatever you're trying, can be behind it some type of paywall. There's a bunch of different strategies you can employ. And in fact, your specific example, I've built precisely that before, where like guests will see the first few sentences of the post, and then after that, it's all private. It's all behind some type of permission. And again, as Keir said, there's simple ways that you can extend XenForo to accomplish that.
So we're going to do an episode in the relatively near future where we're actually going to go through the steps of building an add-on. Maybe that would be one of the topics that we could cover in that, because I think I could write that in about 10 minutes.
That would be amazing.
So let's do that live sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to that one.
We do have another question. I'm not sure if we want to wrap it. This question is one we've discussed before, and I know we're going to touch on it in a future episode. But maybe it could be like a little teaser type thing. So Facebook? Okay.
Yep.
Jim asks, semi-off-topic question: with the near certainty that many people are abandoning Facebook, particularly as of late, is there a sense from panelists that forums might become more visible or viable / popular than in the past?
Yeah, I think that without a doubt, forums kind of had their heyday in the early 2000s, and then without a doubt, they started to wane as a lot of traffic went off to Facebook groups and Google groups. But there is a growing realization among the public that your personal data is not safe with these giant corporations. You are the product, and the fact that they're facilitating your discussion is absolutely at your cost. So yes, I think that we're actually already seeing a lot more traffic coming back into forums, and people are rediscovering actually some of the benefits that forums have had all along, like rediscoverability of content, the fact that forums can be used as reference and a knowledge base. I mean, if you post something on Facebook and you don't save a link to it, you will never find it again. Whereas with a forum, it's built to be discovered again. It's once the content is there, it's searchable, it's permanent, and it's designed to be found again, which is an enormously beneficial thing for the kind of topics that forums and communities tend to cover. So I think that forums are definitely entering a new era of importance.
And I have such a strong opinion. I could talk for a week on this topic. But yeah, it's interesting that to answer directly, absolutely, they're coming back. And I sometimes want people to understand, like, the term forums is kind of like, it implies things depending on which era you come from, right? Bulletin boards, forums, yeah, etc. So to be super clear, small communities are coming back, and I'm obviously biased as a panelist here, but like, I've tried all the community software. I don't know why. I guess it's my profession, right? And XenForo is just one of the most amazing. I call it a foundational software, because it doesn't solve your, it doesn't create the community for you, but it does the heavy lifting. It's your backbone. It's your foundation. And I think the fact that it's, sometimes advertised as a forum software can be a little bit misleading here. It's something that, to say forums are coming back, it means something different to everybody. And I think, again, just to be super, super clear, small groups of people getting together is coming back. And what a beautiful thing. Because in my opinion, how better of a way for progress to be made in whatever space you're in than to get small groups together and leave the race of who can get the most upvotes or who can get the most likes or views. Because I mean, really, sure, that might be great for entertainment, but whenever you've had a problem, and there's some great communities out there that are massive, of course, that I don't mean to ignore, but small niche communities, and again, the size of your community doesn't really matter. It's how it feels, right? You can have a huge community and still have that small group discussion vibe to it, and that's what's coming back, and that's what I really, really am excited about moving forward. And I don't want to talk too much about this, but it's absolutely interesting to see what's going on, and it's about damn time.
I think another particular growth area that we're seeing is companies in particular who are now moving away from Facebook and Google for their online presence, for how they interact with users, and they are starting up their own communities. And these communities are not set up for the purpose of direct monetization. They are there to support an existing product. So the product is the thing that makes the company the money, and then the community that is attached to it adds additional value to that. It might be for technical support, or it might just be for giving your customers somewhere to talk about your content or your product. And we're seeing a lot more movement in that area, in addition to communities that are run for the sake of being communities.
Absolutely. I just want to say, such a beautiful question. Yeah, absolutely.
People are also dropping in some ideas for future topics, but that is all we have for our questions and in chat and the Q&A area right now. And I also feel like you said, this is something we could kind of just indefinitely talk about. There's so much to it, and it also varies so much based on your community. So yeah, I guess thanks everybody for your questions. They've been great, and I hope this conversation was helpful to everybody who joined.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for letting me be a part of this again. And if anyone has questions or thoughts, post them up on the community. I'll take a look.
Yeah, we absolutely look at those, and we try our best to include them because we want this to be relevant.
Thanks, everyone. Like Megan said in the chat, if anyone does have any ideas for a future episode, please do let us know, because although we've got absolutely bucket loads of stuff that we want to talk about. We also want to know what you want us to talk about. So let us know, and also give us some feedback on how you've been finding the episodes so far, so that if anything needs to change, we can change it, or if you just liked it, let us know. Until next time, though, thanks very much.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.